Before streaming cues and gritty reboots, TV gave us four fugitives in a black and red van who fixed impossible problems with duct tape, detonators, and pure swagger. The A-Team wasn't just another 80s show, it was an energy drink in weekly primetime. But behind those triumphant plans and slow-motion flips lived a different story. Overnight casting swaps, off-camera feuds, network panic, mysterious initials, and even a toy error that rewired fans' memories. Today, we're counting down 21 weird, wonderful things you probably didn't know about the A-Team, from the face swap and a feud you never saw to the audio trick that made semi-autos sound like machine guns, and the night a pop icon turned a honky-tonk into culture club. Hannibal's lighting a cigar, B.A. is glaring at an airplane seat, Face has already borrowed a limousine, and Murdoch, he's taxiing down a runway you didn't notice. Let's go. 1. The overnight face switch. Watch the pilot and you'll feel it. The team's smooth-talking con man looks like a different guy, because he is. Tim Dunnigan played Templeton Face Peck in that first outing. Then, snap, he vanished. Producers decided he read too young to sell a hardened vet's resume, so they replaced him with Dirk Benedict before episode 2 rolled. No wink, no plot device, no plastic surgery gag, just a hard jump. Benedict's presence shifted the show's energy. A touch older, slyly amused, and effortlessly persuasive, he anchored scams with a smile that said, "This is going to work." The contrast explains why the pilot feels like an odd historical artifact. Same premise, different gravitational center. It's a rare case where an overnight swap didn't break a series. It refined it, aligned tone with concept, and locked chemistry into place for the long run. 2. Peppered versus Mr. T, ice below the fuse. On camera, Hannibal and B.A. produce a crackling power dynamic, commanding chess player and unstoppable rook. Off camera, George Peppard and Mr. T weren't swapping cigars and gold chains. Peppard brought old-school leading man discipline and guarded the show's dramatic spine. Mr. T arrived as a pop culture supernova, merchandised into the stratosphere. Those orbits didn't naturally intersect. Accounts describe a frosty professionalism. Hit your mark, nail the scene, then reset in separate corners. Oddly, that chill gave their scenes bite. Hannibal's cool authority and B.A.'s blunt force felt authentic because the actors protected their lanes with equal intensity. They didn't need to be friends. They needed results. When Hannibal grins and B.A. growls, there's a spark between confidence and resistance that reads as truth. Sometimes friction, not friendship, forges the sharpest on-screen edge. 3. Murdoch. Almost didn't fly. Howling mad. Murdoch is the show's chaos engine. One part rescue pilot, one part court jester, all parts unpredictable. Early in production, network nerves were real. The character lived big, talking to inanimate objects, crafting sock puppet strategy, and needling B.A. into comic detonation. Then the audience weighed in. Letters poured in praising the wildness, the heart, the way Murdoch punctured tension and solved problems sideways. The feedback steadied the cockpit. Murdoch stayed, and the ensemble snapped into a richer rhythm. Without him, the show risks becoming a straight heist of the week. With him, every mission gets a second solution path, a left field escape hatch, and a load of warmth. The A-Team needed a pilot. It also needed a prankster. Murdoch just happened to be both, with duct tape on the yoke. 4. The van was actually a squad. That GMC with the red slash feels singular, mythic, the fifth team member. In reality, the one van was a small fleet. Productions rely on multiples: a beauty van for close-ups, a stunt rig reinforced for battering, an interior van built to pull away walls, and utility units standing by after hard hits. Swap them quickly and micro differences creep in. Wheel styles, stripe angles, spoilers, even tint shades. Most viewers never notice. The van reads as one indomitable presence. But to mechanics and eagle-eyed fans, it's a collage of near twins doing specialized jobs. The result is a character that can endure any explosion, survive flips without complaint, and still look pristine at golden hour. The van didn't just carry the team, it carried the production, a rolling toolkit disguised as a superhero silhouette. 5. The most famous line that isn't there. Say A-Team, and people instinctively reply, "I pity the fool." Here's the twist. That line never appears in the series. It belongs to Mr. T's Clubber Lang in Rocky III. Because Mr. T and B.A. blurred together in the popular imagination, mohawk, muscles, mountains of gold, the phrase hitchhiked into fans' memories of the show. B.A. threatens, snarls, and plants a few people through furniture, but that exact sentence never crosses his lips in any episode. It's a perfect example of pop culture osmosis. When an actor's persona fuses to a character, quotes migrate, timelines blur, and the wrong property gets credit. The mythology persists because it feels right. But if you go hunting, you'll find B.A.'s bark, his insistence on milk over booze, his loathing of airplanes, just not that catchphrase. 6. Mayhem, engineered to be harmless. Explosions blossom, cars cartwheel, windows atomize into glitter, and yet the bad guys dust themselves off and wobble away. That wasn't an oversight. It was design. The show pursued spectacle without tragedy. Stunts were choreographed to look thunderous while minimizing harm. Edits favored peril over injury, and the post-fight tableau usually revealed the henchman woozy, not wounded. Critics rolled their eyes at the Looney Tunes physics. But families needed adventure they could watch together, and kids needed heroes who solved problems with ingenuity more than cruelty. The series nailed that balance. Loud enough to thrill, soft enough to reassure. In an era before content filters, that choice kept the show firmly inside living rooms at 8 p.m., teaching that a good plan can leave villains outsmarted, not obliterated. 7. A patchwork run in Germany. Even sanitized mayhem can meet resistance. In Germany, a significant chunk of episodes initially didn't air, or surfaced edited, over concerns that the series glamorized violence. The irony is rich. A show famous for pyrotechnics without blood bumped into standards rooted in the message of problem-solving through force. German fans encountered the team as a mosaic. Reruns shuffled, scenes trimmed, narratives interrupted. That fragmented reception highlights how TV isn't consumed in a vacuum. Cultural context, regulation, and timing all shape what survives on screen. For the A-Team, it meant an international legacy with asterisks. Beloved in syndication, occasionally bowdlerized, always unmistakable when the red stripe slid into frame. 8. Season 5 breached the formula. For 4 seasons, the cadence was tight. Framed commandos help the helpless, dodge the MPs, montage a contraption, win. Slipping ratings triggered an experiment. Season 5 tethered the team to a covert handler, shifting them from rogue knights to sanctioned operatives. New faces appeared, the tone cooled. The series traded neighborhood stakes for briefing room chess, and the alchemy thinned. The magic of the show lives in underdog stories, in welding torches and barns turned into workshops, in personal favors and local villains. Bureaucratizing that energy muted the improvisational thrill. The lesson is stark. If your soul is outside the law, but inside the code, pulling the heroes inside the law may fix plot holes while breaking the vibe audiences actually loved. 9. Horns that punch like a fist. That theme doesn't just start an episode, it summons one. Composer Mike Post, a titan of television music, built a fanfare that snaps you to attention on the first snare hit. Brass strides in, drums drive under, and the melody promises competence with swagger. We've got a plan and it's borderline insane. Great themes do narrative labor before anyone speaks. This one establishes tempo, confidence, and a slight military edge while staying playful. It's why marching bands still quote it at halftime, and why a 2-bar sting can make a whole room smirk. The score is a character. The sound of a welding torch, a revving V8, and a colonel's grin stitched into one. 10. A chrome Easter egg and a glitter detour. Blink during the universal lot gag, and you'll miss a Cylon strolling past face. A sly hello to Dirk Benedict's Battlestar Galactica past. It's the perfect inside joke. Science fiction chrome crossing an action-adventure backlot like universes just overlapped. Then there's Cowboy George, where Boy George turns a roughneck bar booking into a culture club show, baffling boots and buckles alike. The episode shouldn't work. It absolutely does. The A-Team thrives on tonal whiplash, danger punctured by absurdity, grit softened by glitter. These moments are time capsules of 80s TV, omnivorous, shamelessly playful, and willing to chase a laugh right through a saloon door if it keeps the energy high. 11. Gold that weighed like a legend. Those chains weren't foam props. They were real, often totaling dozens of pounds. For Mr. T, the jewelry wasn't decoration. It was identity, a portable myth built from gifts, purchases, and personal stories. The shine did branding work before a line of dialogue. The weight did literal work on neck and shoulders. Stunt teams adapted around it. Cameras learned to tame the glare. The silhouette became iconic. Mohawk, beard, denim, muscle, and the gleam of 100 stories catching sunlight. In an era of network TV, no one else looked like that at 8 p.m. It told kids and parents exactly who had just walked into the frame. A man who didn't need the room's respect because he brought his own. 12. When the gold came off. After witnessing the devastation of Hurricane Katrina, Mr. T made a quiet pivot that spoke volumes. He set the gold aside. Flash felt wrong amid such loss. He put on the colors of solidarity instead and let humility do the talking. The choice reframed a persona that many viewed as larger-than-life bravado. It revealed the person underneath, someone who reads the room, measures symbols, and adapts. For a figure synonymous with catchphrases and spectacle, the absence of gold said more than any scripted line. It's a reminder that legacies evolve and that the strongest statement isn't always the loudest one in the room. 13. Real cigars, real attitude. George Pepper didn't simulate Hannibal's cigar habit. He lived it. That small authenticity lent the character a tactile confidence. Cigar angled like a punctuation mark, smoke curling through a plan's final beat. Props can imitate. The timing of a draw between lines, those are hard to fake. The cigar completed the silhouette. Gloves, coat, grin that says he's 2 moves ahead. I love it when a plan comes together, lands differently, when victory arrives with a genuine puff. It's character work through ritual, a vice that becomes iconography, and one more reason the Colonel feels like someone you could meet. If your life involved quarries, welding masks, and suspiciously convenient junkyards. 14. Built under a stopwatch. Some classics arrive as passion projects. The A-Team arrived as a deadline solution. The network wanted an action hit, fast, and pushed for a mashup. Military camaraderie, ensemble grit, high-octane scavenger ingenuity, with Mr. T front and center. On paper, that reads like a Frankenstein brief. In practice, it distilled into a clean, repeatable promise. 4 frame specialists help the helpless using brains, bravado, and scrapyard miracles. The constraints sharpened choices, bright archetypes, clear stakes, kinetic pacing, big set-piece payoffs. The show wasn't subtle. It was precise about where it wanted the fun to live. Sometimes a ticking clock doesn't strangle creativity. It focuses it like a lens until you can see the red stripe from a mile away. 15. A Super Bowl slingshot. Premiering right after the 1983 Super Bowl is like opening a lemonade stand in front of a stadium as the gates open. The pilot served a colossal audience, but let-ins don't guarantee loyalty. The show had to stick the landing. It did, with jailbreak energy, instant archetypes, a heist rhythm, and a final act contraption that felt both ridiculous and inevitable. Viewers who stayed for post-game chatter ended up ordering a weekly dose of improvised justice. That launch pad mattered. It transformed a risky hybrid into a water cooler fixture within hours. You can't engineer cultural memory, but you can give it the best possible runway, and then roar down it. 16. 2 veterans, many habits. Despite the military veneer, only 2 principal cast members had actual service backgrounds. George Pepper, U.S. Marine Corps, and Mr. T, U.S. Army. You feel it in posture, in how they enter a room, in the clipped certainty of an order. Acting sells the rest, of course, but muscle memory leaks through. The way a rifle is carried between takes, the economy of motion loading into a van, the discipline under chaos. Their lived experience lent the series a baseline credibility, the kind that doesn't shout. It's there in small choices that register subconsciously, giving the cartoon physics just enough real-world gravity to keep the fantasy tethered. 17. A real-world template for Hannibal. Colonel John Hannibal Smith borrows his cool from a very real archetype, a highly decorated special forces officer whose daring missions and later freelance rescues turned him into a media lightning rod. Translate that resume to prime time, and you get a commander who smiles at impossible odds, distrusts bureaucracy, and prioritizes loyalty over protocol. The show adds theater, black gloves, a cigar, the flourish of reveal. But the core is grounded in a specific kind of American myth, the maverick professional who bends rules to keep faith with his people. That DNA explains Hannibal's paradox. He's both prankster and patriarch, chaos conductor and safety net, a magician whose tricks are paid for in planning. 18. HM means? We don't know. We learn everything we need about Murdoch except the thing fans most want, what HM stands for. The series keeps it sealed, and that restraint feels right. Murdoch is the human wildcard, the man who will charm a helicopter into starting and then argue with a seatbelt about manners. Giving him a definitive middle-grade yearbook name would shave off a layer of mystery. Instead, the initials hover like the rest of his contradictions. Fragile and fearless, brilliant and baffling, silly and indispensable. The show's smartest choice was to let one corner of Murdoch remain uncolored, a blank that invites speculation while protecting the character's magic trick. 19. The Day A, allegedly called a helicopter. Filming can be brutal. Heat bouncing off metal, long setups, moving targets everywhere. Legend says that during a blistering location shoot, reportedly aboard a crowded vessel, Mr. T reached his limit, tapped out, and lifted off in a helicopter. Whether you file it under confirmed or canon-adjacent lore, the story survives because it's perfectly on brand. On the A-Team, when a plan goes sideways, you improvise an exit. For the crew, it meant frantic schedule surgery. For the myth of BA, it became another bead on a string of outrageous tales. It also underscores a truth about sets. Sometimes the only fix is airflow and distance, ideally with rotor blades. 20. The toy that rewired memory. Ask a collector. The van's upper body is charcoal gray, not pitch black. Yet many licensed toys simplified the paint to all black, whether for manufacturing ease or because TV contrast made gray appear darker. Kids then played out 1,000 imaginary missions with the simplified model and plastic trumped pixels. Years later, fans remembered the wrong shade with absolute certainty. It's a tiny error with big psychological ripples. A reminder that merch can become the canonical artifact in a viewer's mind. On-screen accuracy matters less than what lived in a child's hands for summers on end, skidding across driveways with a red stripe blazing. 21. Machine guns by illusion. The show's shootouts sound like full auto chaos, but the team typically wielded semi-automatic rifles, Ruger Mini 14s being a staple. The illusion came from technique, rapid trigger work, fast cutting, dust pops and squibs on nearby surfaces, and post-production audio sweetening that looped bursts into a convincing roar. Add ricochet sparks and shouted cues, and your living room felt like a war zone while the set stayed comparatively controlled. It's classic television. Sleight of hand. Build the feeling of overwhelming firepower without the dangers or implications of actually using it. The trick fits the show's ethic. Maximum spectacle, minimum harm. Another plan that quietly comes together. Strip away the fireworks, and the A-Team reveals an elegant machine. Bright archetypes, crisp stakes, and a ritual that rewards ingenuity over cruelty. It was born under pressure, refined on the fly, and carried by 4 performances that clashed and clicked in equal measure. The face we met after the pilot wasn't an accident. He was a course correction. The feud that never thawed gave scenes grit. The pilot nearly cut by executives became the show's heartbeat. The van that seemed immortal was a relay team of lookalikes. A line from a boxing movie became the series' phantom quote. Episodes were censored abroad. The formula was bent until it broke. And a theme song taught horns to swagger. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, you already know what happens next. Hannibal smiles, smoke curls, the engine growls, and the red stripe cuts across the frame like a promise kept.